One day, I noticed something was off. My husband had been making more mistakes at work, which led to him getting demoted. He wasn't too surprised by it though, since he had never been the hardest worker. But as time went on, he started forgetting things more and more, so we decided to go to the hospital to check it out. I thought he might be depressed, but the doctor told us that he actually had juvenile Alzheimer's, which is a form of dementia. I was shocked because even though I heard that young people could get this disease, I never expected it would happen to him. My name is Katie Smith. 5 years have passed since then, and I'm now 50 years old, while my husband is 54. We don't have any children, and I continued to work. My parents have already passed away, but my husband's parents are still alive and living in the countryside, not too far from us. They're very kind people, and when my husband was diagnosed, they even offered to take him in and suggested that I should get a divorce. However, my husband always hated living in the country and firmly refused to move there. I also didn't want to leave him just because he got sick. We've been married for nearly 20 years, and I felt that it would be wrong to end things because of his illness. Despite his forgetfulness, my husband could still lead a fairly normal life, and the medication he takes seems to be helping. He can still recognize me and do things around the house, even if he sometimes struggles with his memory. At work, he started making more mistakes and would sometimes cry when he couldn't understand something. One day, he told me he wanted to quit his job and asked if I would support him if he did. I couldn't say no, so he ended up leaving the company. Now he spends most of his time at home. Although he can be forgetful and sometimes leaves things out or makes a mess, it's not really causing any major problems. I talked to the doctor about getting someone to help take care of him while I'm at work, but the doctor said I shouldn't worry too much because my husband still knows how to keep himself safe. The doctor told me that we would discuss things further when my husband's disease progressed. For now, he advised me to remind my husband to lock the door when he went out and not to go outside alone. I was worried about whether my husband could manage this, but he kept insisting that he was fine on his own. Sometimes when I pushed too much, he would lose his temper and say things like, "Shut up, I'm sick. Stop talking about unnecessary things. You're just confusing me more, be considerate of me." I found it hard to deal with him when he got like that, so I had to leave him alone. 5 years before my husband's illness was discovered, when he was 40, I had been promoted to a section manager. My salary increased, so even when he left his job, we weren't in financial trouble. We didn't have children, and we had a good amount of savings, so there was no need to panic. Our savings were still untouched, and I was really glad I had kept working. I just hoped our life could continue as normally as possible. However, lately, something has been bothering me. Things have started going missing. Many of the missing items were expensive things like my brand name bags, shoes, and clothes that I had bought as rewards for myself. I looked everywhere, thinking I might have misplaced them, but I couldn't find them. When I asked my husband if he knew where they were, he just said, "I don't know." I asked him if he remembered taking them somewhere, but he only repeated, "No, I don't remember." I began to worry that his illness had progressed to the point where he didn't even remember taking things out of the house. When I came home from work and asked him what he did that day, he often said, "I can't remember." The doctor had told me that sometimes the disease progresses slowly and other times it speeds up, but I started to worry that it was getting worse quickly. If that was the case, I'd be concerned about leaving him alone while I was at work. If he started wandering around, I wouldn't be able to take care of him by myself. I was so worried about my husband that I secretly set up surveillance cameras in the house. I didn't want him to start wandering around and bothering other people. If that happened, I knew I'd have to deal with it somehow. A week later, after my husband went to sleep, I nervously checked the footage from the cameras. But what I saw was far beyond anything I had imagined, and I was completely shocked. I had no idea this was happening. My husband was bringing a woman into our home. For the past 5 years, I haven't had a real conversation with him. Whenever I asked him something, he would only give vague answers. But in the video, he was talking normally without any sign of difficulty. It was hard to believe that he had dementia. What shocked me even more was the identity of the woman he brought in. It was the female doctor who had diagnosed him with dementia. The hospital she worked at was the same one that handled the medical checkups for my husband's company. Was this some kind of sick joke between my husband and the doctor, or was it all a lie and he never had dementia in the first place? In the video, my husband asked the doctor, "Are you sure she hasn't figured it out?" "Not at all," she replied. "Dementia is a convenient disease. I don't have to work, and I can just say I don't remember anything inconvenient." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My husband relaxed at home and brought his mistress over while I was the one working. He even bragged about it. "You started it," the doctor said. "When you told me you were tired of working and wanted to quit, I said we should come up with a plan. I didn't think it would work so well, my husband laughed. The doctor crossed her legs and chuckled. She's doing great at work. She's even getting promoted and earning more than me, but thanks to her, we can spend time like this. Well, she's my ATM, so she needs to keep working hard, my husband said. You called her your housekeeper the other day, the doctor teased. She's both, my housekeeper and my ATM, he replied. My mind went blank as I listened to their conversation. The words from the video replayed in my head over and over. Then my husband added, "Oh, and don't take too many things out of the house." My wife noticed some stuff was missing. The doctor laughed. Just say it's part of the disease. You forgot where you put it. No other illness is as convenient as this one. I won't have to work for the rest of my life, my husband said, clearly pleased with himself. So this was what was really going on. What had I been doing all this time? For 5 years, I worked hard and took care of the house, all while trusting him and never questioning anything. The realization that my entire life had been a lie hit me like a ton of bricks. I felt like an absolute fool, as if every ounce of strength had been drained from my body. Then, out of nowhere, I started laughing, a hollow, eerie sound that felt completely out of place. It wasn't joy, it was madness, born out of a mix of anger, sadness, frustration, and utter despair. The kind of despair that makes you feel like you're losing your mind. But the nightmare didn't end there. I checked our bank account, only to find that the balance was zero. Every penny I had saved since our marriage was gone. It was as if the world had come crashing down around me. I felt completely lost, as if there was nothing left to hold on to. When dawn broke, and my husband woke up with that same nonchalant look on his face, something inside me snapped. Rage surged through my veins, replacing the numbness that had taken over. "Where's breakfast?" he asked, as if nothing had happened. I wanted to grab him by the collar, scream at him, and demand answers, but I resisted. He didn't know that I had discovered the truth yet, and I wasn't ready to reveal my hand. I wanted to confront him, make him apologize, and see the look on his face when he realized I knew everything. But I hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Despite the fury boiling inside me, I managed to keep my composure. I decided to play along to see how far he would go with his lies. "What are you planning to do today?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Why do you ask? You never care about that," he replied, surprised. "I'm just curious what you do at home every day." He shrugged. "I really wish I could work like you, but you know I'm sick. I just end up causing trouble for everyone around me. I envy you for being able to work." His words, so casually spoken, made my blood boil. How could he lie so blatantly, knowing what he was doing behind my back? Of course, I could use his infidelity as grounds for alimony and divorce, but the thought of the last 5 years made me feel sick to my stomach. Tears welled up in my eyes as I thought about how someone could be so heartless, so capable of such deceit. I imagined him laughing it off, saying it was all a joke, and then trying to spin some twisted logic to excuse himself. Days passed, each one more unbearable than the last. Just looking at my husband's face made me want to vomit, but I endured it, playing the part of the clueless wife. The camera remained hidden, capturing every betrayal. He still believed I was in the dark, so he continued to bring the doctor over when I was out. I decided to test him. "Hey, did anyone come by today?" I asked one evening, pretending to notice something. I thought I smelled someone else. He hesitated, then said, "Well, maybe someone came by, but I don't remember. Maybe it was a salesman." "So, how are you feeling? You've been looking better lately. Are you on the mend?" I asked, watching him closely. "Treatment must be working," he said with a smirk, completely unaware that his tirade was about to come crashing down. "I don't think so. I've been forgetting things more lately. The doctor said that once you have this disease, you can slow it down, but you can't cure it," my husband said. "That's right. That doctor was a beautiful woman, wasn't she?" I asked. "Was she? I can't remember her face," he replied. I couldn't believe he could keep up this act for so long. I couldn't just sit quietly anymore, so I went to visit my in-laws with the video I had recorded, without telling my husband. They had always been kind to me, but I was nervous because they were his parents. I worried they might take his side, thinking their son could do no wrong. Maybe they even blamed me, saying it was my fault he was cheating, or that I wasn't a good enough wife. I felt so alone. If they blamed me too, I thought I would just give up and go through with a divorce. "Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I'm sorry to bring this up suddenly, but I need to talk to you about something," I said when I arrived. "You look so tired. What happened?" my mother-in-law asked, concerned. "Come inside. Are you hungry? I'll make you something hot to eat," she said. Her kindness almost made me cry. I shouldn't have worried. When they saw the video of my husband with the doctor, they got down on their knees and apologized to me right there. Our stupid son. I'm so sorry, Katie. We're so sorry, they said, crying and holding my hands. Their reaction made me cry too. All the tension I had been holding in for so long just melted away. But even though I felt some relief, my anger toward my husband didn't disappear. Still, I was happy to finally have someone on my side. There was something else that made me happy. I had just received an offer to be promoted to a department head position at work. It felt good to know that my hard work was being recognized, and that there was a place where I belonged. "Hey, Katie, are you listening to me?" someone asked, snapping me out of my thoughts. "What?" "Oh, sorry, I was a little lost in thought," I said, realizing I had been thinking about how to deal with my husband. "It's not funny if both you and your husband are losing it," they joked, bringing a small smile to my face despite everything. His words made me think about something. I wondered aloud, would you take care of me if I became demented? He snapped back, "No way, I can barely take care of myself." When I said this, my husband looked at me with wide eyes. After that, I started repeating things he had said, little by little, every day to make it seem more real. I've been making a lot of mistakes at work lately, I'd say. I seem to be forgetting things. I even forgot how to use the washing machine or cook rice. As I did this, my husband started to get more and more nervous. One day when I came home from work, I discovered that my husband had left. He left the divorce papers already filled out and a polite note saying, "I don't want to cause you any more trouble, so I decided to divorce you. Please don't look for me, Ken." I knew he ran away because he thought I might have dementia, but I also knew exactly where he went. My husband had rented an apartment to keep seeing the female doctor, which I had seen in the hidden video. In the video he said, "I'm getting a divorce. It would be terrible if I had to take care of her. I've already moved my savings, so I won't have to worry for a while," he laughed. He even told her where his new apartment was. I knew where the doctor lived too, so I went to their neighborhood. The female doctor was married and lived in the suburbs with her family. I immediately filed the divorce papers and sent a bill for alimony and property division to my husband's new apartment. Of course, I also sent a bill for alimony to the female doctor by certified mail. My husband received it and called me right away, shouting, "What the hell? What's this about alimony?" "Of course, it's for cheating on me," I replied. "What?" he stammered. "Oh yeah, I sent it to that lady doctor too. I'm sure her husband knows by now, and they're having a hard time." I also sent the video from the hidden camera to my husband, thinking the doctor's husband deserved to know the truth. How did you know?" my husband asked, shocked. I was surprised too. "I can't believe it was all a lie. I thought you were going crazy," I said, mocking him. "I was just trying to imitate you. You're so easy to fool, aren't you?" Angrily, my husband started yelling at me, refusing to face what he had done. He said to me, "You're the one who cheated. Do you really think you have the right to be mad at me after pretending to have dementia for 5 years, living off my money, and bringing another woman into our house? Do you think you can get away with that?" I guess my husband never even imagined that I knew everything. Suddenly, he started stumbling over his words. "But what do you mean by dividing property? I don't have any property," he said. "We have your savings," I replied. "Oh, I've already spent it all. There's not a penny left," he blurted out. I thought it was ridiculous that he had the nerve to keep talking like this. I told him that I had planted a camera in our house and heard everything he said to the female doctor. I had all the footage as evidence. When I mentioned that his parents knew about this and were furious, he started yelling again, "How dare you tell them about this?" He didn't seem to understand that he had no right to be angry with me anymore. Thankfully, he kept talking, so I didn't even need to hire a private investigator and spend extra money. When I said this, my husband went quiet for a while, probably at a loss for words, and then he hung up the phone. The following month, he called again. "What's going on?" he asked. "What do you mean?" I replied. "I just went to the apartment, and they said the lease was already canceled," he said. "What apartment?" I asked. "The apartment we lived in, of course," he said. I thought to myself, he was the one who left the divorce papers, so I didn't expect him to come back. I told him that I had canceled the lease right after he left. I bought a condo and now I live there. I used the alimony I received from you and your lover, along with the savings I managed to recover. It's a small place, but it's mine, and I'm really happy with it." "Really? I'm going to check it out," you said. I wondered who would even think like that. "Do you have a girlfriend?" I asked. "I already broke up with her. Her husband found out about the affair and divorced her. She got sued by a patient for a mistake she made, and now she's in debt from both the lawsuits and alimony payments," you explained. "Oh, really? So you're thinking of starting over with me? Does that mean the alimony payments will be canceled and I can get my money back?" I couldn't believe you. You even started suggesting that we get back together and that I should get my alimony payments returned. I felt like saying, "Are you out of your mind? Why would I want to get back together with you? We're divorced. I never want to see you again." I told you this and hung up, blocking all your calls. Later, I heard that you went to visit your parents, not knowing they had sold their house and moved into a retirement apartment. You were shocked to find the house for sale and contacted them. Since we have a lawyer working on collecting the money for the division of property and alimony, you were left with almost nothing. You couldn't find a new job and were evicted because you couldn't pay the rent. You probably asked your parents for help, but they had already planned for this and moved out, so they wouldn't have to deal with you moving back in. They said they'd feel sorry for me if you came back to them. I heard you're now working at a factory as a live-in worker, but you're so lazy that you struggle to keep up and get yelled at by younger workers. You've reached out to your parents several times for help, but they've ignored you. A few months have passed since our divorce. I still keep in touch with your parents. They've been very kind to me and feel like real parents. I want to stay close to them and help them if they need it. I've been promoted to department manager and my salary has increased. I'm enjoying my peaceful life and plan to keep working hard.